Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I guess we can start our today's event. My name is Daria, and I'm moderator of our today's event. Today we are here to talk about AI in testing, and this is actually the first part of our event. The second part of our event will be on the next week, on June 14th, so feel free to join our second part as well. And here is our today's agenda. We're gonna have two speakers. Tariq King will tell us about AI in general and its usage in testing, and Nataliya Bogushevskaya will tell us about ChatGPT in functional testing and will share some practical cases with us. Just a quick reminder for you all, guys. So feel free to ask any questions during our presenters will talk. So please put your questions in the chat. After all the two speeches, we will have time for a Q&A session. So we'll go through the list of the questions and we'll try to answer them. So that's actually it from organizational perspective. And I think we can start. And our first speaker is Tariq, and I'm welcome Tariq and passing my work to him.
Thanks a lot. Great to be here. I think you all should be able to see my slides. This morning we're going to talk about the usage of AI in software testing and kind of give a big picture. My name is Tariq King. I'm managing principal of technology consulting at EPAM, and I'm really working a lot with the testing practice, engineering excellence, and driving a lot of the different aspects of using AI for quality engineering throughout the life cycle. And so that's kind of where a lot of this work is getting positioned. So in terms of this specific leg, we're going to just kind of give that big overview of AI in testing and then get into some of the tooling and technology that is currently out there that's supporting these types of efforts. Of course, generative AI is like very huge right now. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, and that'll lead us into some of the kind of future expectations of where we see things going. All right, so AI for software testing and the use of AI in testing. And this is like one of these things where nowadays it's kind of becoming synonymous, like the term generative AI, but I really wanted to step back and give the big picture because there's a lot involved even beyond just what is kind of buzzing right now in the industry. But we're seeing AI being applied to all aspects of software validation and verification. Of course, natural language processing and the use of that type of technology to do things like validate requirements, right? So are requirements correct, consistent, complete, and verifiable? And so there's that realm or that dimension of it. Of course, you're seeing a lot of the kind of generative techniques also be applied in terms of the analysis of text to things like code reviews, right? So having AI machine learning models now give feedback as to whether or not code is correct or if there's better suggestions for improving the code quality and looking at different dimensions of that. And then the big piece is really the generative models have now enabled us to actually do things a lot easier, like generate entire code blocks, including API tests or looking at generating test data that fits a particular type of schema. And so we're seeing that dimension of it become very, very popular. And then one of the things that we'll kind of even step through today is that there's a huge portion of the space that is actually being dedicated. A lot of the vendors are pushing the use of AI for both functional and non-functional testing. So when we talk about the user interface of an application, can I leverage computer vision models to navigate through the application and test certain scenarios and kind of bring automation to that level? Or is there a way for me to test the look and feel of the application, right? Visual testing, which is more of a non-functional thing. And then if you can kind of enable these types of user level verification and flows, can we then extend that to things like performance and accessibility, etc. And then, of course, like when you think about automation, typically things like gaming or specific domains like video quality are a little bit more challenging. But if you're now using computer vision models, you can actually test anything with a screen, and then starting to think about the gaming world and the user experience and how do you actually navigate through a game and check visuals to make sure that there are no glitches. This is also being enabled a lot by not only the computer vision side of it, but also things like reinforcement learning that we'll talk about. And then last but not least, of course, there's all the predictive analytics that has been like the core focus of AI for many, many years. Can we do things like um, look at, either numerical data or test results or logs and apply classification or clustering algorithms to them so that we can gain useful insights. From a testing perspective, these are things like test reporting and analysis and so on and so forth. And of course, we at EPAM have an open source accelerator that incorporates these things, the report portal. All right, so what is this big picture? What am I really saying? I'm saying that we're seeing AI and machine learning being applied across all levels, right? So from the UI level to the API level to the unit level. So addressing those core concerns. We're then also seeing cross-cutting concerns being addressed, right? So AI being used for user design, performance, security testing, and then again also across these special domains, right? So things that are highly graphical that require a little bit more analysis than the typical web-based framework might give you, or all the traditional tools like Selenium and Cypress and so on and so forth. All right, so what does the technology really look like? The first thing I would say is that computer vision really has seen a lot of advances over the years, right? So, how can we actually get the machines to be able to perceive the real world or the physical world, right? Can you actually recognize images similar to a human would? And then, what can we actually do with that information in terms of automation? Reinforcement learning that we'll touch on is more of how can machines learn by trial and error, right? So a lot of the problems that you see that are hard problems to solve procedurally, like self-driving cars, right? It's not easy to say and enumerate all the conditions that would occur, but by having a trial and error and a feedback mechanism in place, you can use reinforcement learning to figure out how you can actually navigate safely through something like the real world in driving a car. And then the world of natural language processing. So these are kind of like three of the big areas of AI that we're going to dive into in terms of testing. And of course, we kind of already mentioned some of the different pieces of NLP in terms of being able to generate text. But there's also things like the analysis and summarization of the said text, or even translation from one language to another or one format to another. That's very useful here. All right, so machine vision, right? So normally these are under the bucket of things like object recognition, which talks about how can we take things like images or digital photos and identify things in them, right? So can I feed a picture of a cat and have the machine recognize that this is a cat? And really, a lot of the advances here have been around the use of convolutional neural networks, which is a particular type of machine learning architecture that is particularly good at helping to identify and classify and locate objects in images. In addition to that capability, thinking about just even using that same format to identify what might be any text or even handwriting within those things, right? Optical character recognition. So machines have become particularly good at being able to analyze data in this format due to these advances in this particular architecture. So what does that mean for testing and AI and the application of machine vision there? Well, it means, like, first of all, we can now come to a new level or a new capability when it comes to automation. Can we actually like leverage AI to detect the screen that we're on for an application or perceive that user interface? And so this is the login screen, right? And we'll talk about how exactly it comes to that conclusion. And these are the different elements within that screen. So the menu button, the email text box, etc. And then again, thinking about OCR, these are the actual text labels or error messages or any kind of aspect of the application that returns textual information. We can now grab that using this technology. And how's that really working? Well, this type of machine learning approach is really about giving the machines examples of the different aspects that you're trying to train the machine on. So you're saying, okay, I want you to learn what screen we are on. So let's give you examples in the form of data of different types of login screens, for example, or different types of product pages. And you feed the machine those examples. And then what it can do is that if it sees a new example or something that it hasn't seen before, it can now say with some level of confidence, I think this is a product page. Similarly, on the element level, you're just feeding it different examples of things, for example, here like shopping carts. And then now the machine has the ability to recognize those things on the screen. And also, going a step further, is also able to locate these things. And now you can think of in a similar manner, the machine would be able to recognize things like errors, right? So if a obvious blatant error occurred, a 404 or something clearly went wrong in the application, now you can use this vision technology in a similar manner to determine if something failed. All right, so the second piece, reinforcement learning, right? This is thinking of leveraging what is this, usually like a model free reinforcement learning strategy where you have an agent who's able to act in an environment. So the agent takes some action and then it can receive a reward and maybe move to a different state. And so, what does this really kind of map to, or the easiest thing to kind of think about this of is think about how we might be able to leverage AI to play video games, right? We have a goal that says here, hey, we want you to maximize like the distance that you walk. And so, if the agent is able to successfully walk some distance, it'll get some reward. If it hits an obstacle, you might give it a negative reward or game over. And in this way, the agent is able to kind of learn the environment and learn how to optimize its goal. And so, how is that even applied in software testing? Well, we can take that idea and we can start to say, well, how can we leverage the bot kind of infrastructure to navigate and explore an application? So you can start off just like a game, right? You have a score of 0. The goal is to get to the shopping cart. The bot takes a random step, clicks, ends up on the product page. You give it a negative reward. It did get closer, but it's not exactly where you want it to be. You encourage it to move. And then we now get a score of 99. In a similar fashion, you just keep by trial and error repeating this process. And now let's say that the bot finds a better path. And so now we're able to see how reinforcement learning, we're actually able to now leverage this type of framework to actually optimize certain goals, right? So if you wanted to get to that cart in the shortest possible distance, this might be how you set up your reward system. If you wanted to explore the application and find new pages and discover new pages, well, then you would assign your reward every time it went to a page that it hadn't seen before to be greater than if it saw something that it's seen. And so this is very useful for getting to a point where you can actually combine these two things, right? The image based or machine vision with reinforcement learning. And here you have a bot who's able to do by trial and error exploratory testing. So it's going to try to log into the application. And it might make a mistake. It might fail the first time it tries to do something. And that's okay. It'll then say, okay, I made a mistake. Let me try something different and see if I can get closer to the reward and actually get towards the goal of logging into the system and exploring it more. And so it's very powerful when you start looking at combining these different machine learning techniques to actually, enable a new level of automation. All right, and third and kind of last portion that we'll cover in terms of technology is the NLP technology. And of course, this has been the buzz. We've not been able to do prior to the introduction of large language models. We haven't been able to do a great job at NLP. Of course, we have been able to do things like sentiment analysis and There's some generative approaches that were around using recurrent neural networks, but nothing really got to a new level until we started to introduce the idea of transformers, right? And these are all examples: generative pre-trained transformer 3, GPT-4. These should be all things that might be familiar, especially if you're a user of ChatGPT. Um, Something really happened to enable us to actually get to a more realistic and more efficient and effective way to actually process natural language. And without getting into the details, the idea of the pre-trained transformers really allowed us to do this. So just like convolutional neural networks helped us to really be able to perceive the digital world, this idea of the transformers and pre-trained transformers is allowing us to take the communication using text to a new level. And so, what is all that kind of implying on the software world, in particular quality and testing? Well, we're seeing it being applied to the generation of production code at all levels. We talked about the code review stuff, but also that is being applied to test code. And can we actually just leverage these natural language approaches to generate full test cases, right? For example, a class or for an API. And so that is been booming. And of course, at EPAM, we've been focusing a lot on generative AI in testing, right? Over 443 experiments that we've logged using different tools like Copilot or GPT-3, GPT-4 models, both at the chatbot level and as well at the API level. And more to come, right? You'll see when Nataliya starts talking, the use of this type of technology is pretty profound. Here's an example of an accelerator that we built, and we can integrate a lot of our prompts and configure them and be able to do things like generate test data for a particular locale or region. And this is not by any means a small isolated effort, right? This is now becoming something where we're looking at all aspects of software testing and seeing how can we apply generative AI, things like designing test cases and developing test scripts, code generation and maintaining them. How do we migrate from one system to another using this generative approach? So therefore test case maintenance. And then everything from devising test strategies to analyzing results, right? And not just functional, but across all areas: performance, accessibility, and so on and so forth. So there's just a lot of general applicability of this technology right now to software testing. And it's probably like one of the biggest topics that you'll see has come into play. All right. So I think one thing is clear, and this is why the kind of natural progression of this talk is to go from looking at the technology and kind of end up on large language models, because we're seeing this rapid adoption of generative AI. And of course, we release some press releases and marketing information around this stuff. And what's interesting is when you look at product development and software development, we're looking at these possible productivity increases across the board using generative AI to speed up the life cycle, to become more productive, to do less manual tasks, and also to do them more efficiently, right, at cost. And so the world is latched on to this idea and looking at it as a differentiator, not just for their operating costs for their business, but also as a market differentiator. How can they use it to enhance their products? And so, what we're moving towards, I think, is this generative AI-enabled software lifecycle. And so, when you think about it, you think about, well, all the activities that now were kind of a little bit hindered by a lot of manual effort, whether it be requirements gathering or things like architectural design, um, even implementation itself. Can we actually accelerate those activities using generative AI? And then thinking about the deliverables or tools that we can build. Um, and then, of course, like there's a whole now slew of possibilities where, at least from EPAM's perspective, like how can we actually help to train and enable organizations in this new world? So, with along with your traditional aspects of quality, shifting left, engineering excellence, DevOps, quality gates, etc., all that's now kind of compounded by the ability to build generative AI capabilities on top of that. All right. So what does this mean like for the future? And I think one of the key things to kind of put in perspective here is that even though a lot of this talked about AI in testing and the technology that can be used to enhance software testing, whether it be test automation from a tooling or test driver perspective, or analyzing results and optimizing the process or generating test plans. One thing is for sure, once you start using AI for different things, including this, we now have to be very conscious that we need to be able to test and validate those AI-based systems, right? So what are some different methodologies and skills that are being used now, especially if clients start putting these different generative approaches into more of their products? How do you make sure that those things are actually working correctly? How do you measure the level of correctness or the user experience related to these things? And then the one thing that is kind of interesting here as well is that there's a lot of adaptive behavior that happens as you put these machine learning systems out there. They learn after they've been deployed. So there's another aspect of this is how do we enable testing to happen at runtime or build testing into these systems? So I really believe that the future of testing is going to be shaped around a lot of these AI technologies in these three areas, right? How do we build new tools to enable AI-driven test automation? How do we actually get on top of the different methods that are needed to test AI systems? And then how do we move to a place where we're actually looking at the design and the delivery and the deployment of a system with testing capabilities as part of the inherent nature of the software as it kind of goes into the wild. So, all right, with that being said, I'll stop and turn it over to Nataliya to continue.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tariq, for your interesting speech and your interesting presentation. Guys, just a reminder, feel free to ask your questions in the chat and we will go back to them at the end of our event. Yeah, and now I'd like to invite Nataliya to tell us about ChatGPT and functional testing.
Yeah, thank you, colleagues. And hi, everyone. Let's consider how to apply all those AI tools in testing. And for today, we will start with just a manual testing, and we will use ChatGPT 3.5. So it's free one. It's anyone can use that, and it's not a problem to work with it. So let's consider how it's possible to work with it. And just a second, I'm trying to share my screen. Hope you can see it now. Okay. Generally, we do know which CTLC phases are applicable for any project. We can work with requirement analysis, test planning, test case development, test environment setup, test execution, and test site closure. Let's just consider a couple of examples in each phase how to use ChatGPT. For that, we will use just regular, not plus version of ChatGPT. It's a new chat. Let's name it. It's very convenient that chat is storing our chat, and moreover, we even can share our chat and our prompts with our colleagues that are logging into the system as well. And let's start from the very beginning. Let's assume we have a pretty cool new project. So some startup project, some POC project about how to fly your pet. So the main idea is that you are going to travel with your pet and you would like to find out everything that will allow you not to worry about your friend. Hotel results with maybe some grooming service and maybe some additional services for your pet. Pretty much words. And let's assume we have to start on requirement analysis, how to use, what to test, what not to test. But still, too many words. How can we use ChatGPT to help us to get through all this description? Let's assume I just copy this chat and this information and we'll ask a chat. That's the description of the project. And please prepare me the epic decomposition of it. And I'm just copying the same information about hotel for your pet. Everything that was shared as a description of a project. Let's see, will Cat help us or no? And as you see, some ideas are already provided. It's about user registration, search and browse, pet-friendly accommodation, booking, and site service. So looks like very good decomposition. And now we can work further with each with each topic separately, not to take into account all of them. We can, for example, ask ChatGPT to provide some more detailed ideas. Let's assume I would like to, well, what do I have? I don't see anything about mobile testing in it, but according to description, there was a mobile application. So as you see, you have to check any AI tool because they might miss something, especially if it's too much word. Let's ask ChatGPT about it. Uh, please add mobile testing. Not mobile testing, but just mobile application. Epic. So it's adding. It might not be associated with our project, but probably we need to consider with our client or our delivery manager, are we going to implement all those ideas? Oh no, for example, geolocation and bomb integration looks interesting, but probably you will not journey to some unknown city and with map and geolocation try to find pet-friendly hotel. You will make it in advance. So some ideas might be useful. Some ideas should be considered with the team, with the client, but some of them might be put in a long backlog and just forget about it. So as you see, it's working for the whole description. Let's take one of the ideas, one of the requirements, and run some requirement analysis for just small ideas. And well, let's, for example, take something about pet monitoring. So really interesting information, so that I'm as a pet owner can communicate with the hotel staff asking how's my dog, how's my cat, how they are. I'm so worried. I'm in the training, I'm in the workshop, and they are alone in the hotel. Okay, what we will do, let's ask ChatGPT to create us a checklist for testing this idea. So it's not yet very detailed. It's not yet real requirements. It's more of high-level ideas, function, business ideas. But we can work with it, and we can ask, for example, to create a checklist for testing the epic, and I'm copying the epic itself. Okay, it's doing, but I don't like this form of checklist. I prefer the other one. I'm stopping the generating and doing the same, but now I will specify the output I'm interested in. Let's assume I'm interested in this part. Epic below. And I'm interested in tabular form. Checklist item, what testing type it belongs to, is it positive, negative, and suggested priority for the idea. Now I'm expecting that result will be in a form of table that's easy for me to read. And yep, it's in here. Um, as you see, we have testing type, positive, negative idea, For now, we have only positive, but you can specify any other topics. You can say, please add checklist items, for example, for acceptance testing, for security testing, for accessibility testing, usability testing, and chat will provide you ideas. You're the boss. You have to consider them and to take final what you will take into your backlog and what you will not. But chat can create a lot of ideas. In analyzing those ideas, you can say, for example, message delivery. So they will message hotel staff is going to message me. It means that I have to prepare some interface for hotel staff and share my personal contact so they can chat me or can phone me. Not so sure that this is a good idea. I don't need it. Message history as well. I don't need it. I can send inquiries. Yeah, it might be that I will said, please define the grooming for my dog in appropriate time. So we can use it. In requirement analysis, generating a lot of checklist items can help to analyze our requirement, to analyze if we can verify it. Is it correct, consistent, and ambiguous, and correct, consistent, and ambiguous, complete. So if all those four are happen, it means it's testable and we can work with it. As you see, on requirement analysis, we can use ChatGPT for analyzing the whole overall high-level description. We can work with small ideas, and in the same way, we can prompt about checklist creation for a particular story. Analyzing checklist ideas, we can analyze requirement and communicate to our business analyst that something is missing. This idea is not properly described. I have questions based on checklist. What we'll have after that? Let's assume I'm still not very good in tabular form. I need something else because it's easy for me and for the whole team to communicate using some other approach. And for that, we can use my technique. And I would ask ChatGPT to prepare, based on this table, mind map diagram for the table for all those ideas. For now, I will have some kind. No, it's not this one. We'll try. Sometimes you have to ask it. I'm copying the code. I'm open plant.yml. It's an open source and open model. And yep, it's working. As you see, we do have, for now, uh, mind map with all our ideas. That's our main story, sub stories, and what are we going to check with these ideas. It might be different way. For example, I will share already prepared example for the same. I can divide on different testing types, accessibility, functional, integration, positive and negative ideas, so that you will have one map with proper branching strategy and ideas that you will look into. Again, it might be a good way to groom the story on a grooming session with your business analyst and for the whole team, because you now know how to test. And moreover, that will bring some insight for developers how you're going to check the application, and might help to avoid some stupid errors and bugs that will just gaps in the requirements. Okay, what's next? For requirements, yep, we can use it. Can we use it for test planning? In test planning, we have to prepare a lot of artifacts such as test plan and test strategy. It might be good to propose test tool selection if it's not standard, to work with test effort estimation and training requirements. Can we use ChatGPT for that? Let's try. Let's assume For the same domain, I have to prepare testing types useful for the domain. What will I ask ChatGPT? I will copy the theme. If you're working a lot with the same chat, it will remember what you are doing. But until it doesn't happen, better to copy all those ideas, or if you revise them and remove unnecessary, then keep only necessary one. I'm copying those information, and let's hope the chat can help us. Okay, user registration, functional testing, security testing. Makes sense. Functional usability, functional integration. As you see, for now, breakdown is per epic. So for each epic, um, ChatGPT provides us testing types that might be useful and some explanation what we are going to test. In the same way, we can please suggest testing types that will be out of scope uh, for the domain above. Because it's also important to specify what we are not going to test. And it's saying performance testing. Is it a good idea? We are launching a website, we are launching a mobile version. I would say that performance testing is needed. Localization testing for non-European regions. Yep, we were saying that the application is for European regions only, so localization for European must be in line. Is it in here? Yes, it's in here. And for non-European, it's a good choice. So as you see, again, it's produce a lot of ideas. We have to consider them and to make a final solution, final decision to take these ideas or not to take to these ideas. Is it possible somehow to change the description? Let's assume I'm not interested in breakdown per epic. I'm interested in breakdown testing type and where it might be useful. Okay, let's try. We can ask this one. Restructure it. Okay, and now functional testing type, and all the areas, all the epics applicable for functional testing, usability testing, security testing, and all other type of testing. Or they are set as out of scope testing, so all the testing types are in here, out and in scope. We can work it. Is it possible somehow to publish it on Confluence? Because okay, I do have it, but probably I have to share it with PM, with stakeholders, maybe with client, and I need to capture this one. Okay, let's ask, and let's assume I would take only one story. I need some story, and let's assume that will be the story. Again, this story was generated with ChatGPT, and all the acceptance were generated with ChatGPT. I have a story, and I need to get testing strategy, a short testing strategy for this story only, or for the whole epic, up to you. Okay, I'm asking ChatGPT to provide a test strategy in Confluence format. Let's check. Okay, it's in here. As you see, we have A3, A4, that's headings. And if we are using Confluence, just a second, I will open some Confluence page and we'll try to do that. It might be in a format of a code, so it will be a black window with a code. It might be just text and we have to copy. Both works for me. I'm copying it. Tap, 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 tap. Yep. That's a Confluence page. I'm creating a new one. Next, I'm doing markup. And let's insert it and publish it. The page needs a name. Yep, you're right. Test strategy. Or story. Hope this topic is not taken yet. Magic is happening and not very clear is it good. And now let's add table context. Yep. Yes, table context is not empty. And as you see, structure is present. So we have objective, scope, test environment, test and approach. We haven't specified sections we are interested in test strategy. You can define it. You can say, I need this, and that. But they're in here just for the story or for the whole application, the whole release, whatever. You can do that. Easy peasy, especially if your client is interested in testing strategy for release, for sprint, for story, and it takes a lot of time to create documentation. You can use ChatGPT and it will help you. Okay, that's cool. What else can we use? Can we use it for something different? Let's assume I do have mobile testing, and my client is asking, "Do you need something, some internal or external third-party tools to run mobile testing on a real device?" And I'm not a guru in mobile testing. I don't know. Let's ask ChatGPT to help me. Um, I'm asking, I need to run mobile testing. Please suggest tools. And I'm specifying I'm interested in tabular format. I'm interested in tool, pros, and cons. Oh no, magic is not happening. Sometimes chart is just. Are you kidding me? It's kidding me. Good. At least everything else was stored. And asking in it once again. Okay, that's my table. Appium, yep, I've heard about it, and I do understand that well. If we're talking about manual testing, then manual testing only, then probably it's not our choice because Java or Python are required. The rest are in here. We can consider with a team, consider with staffing, and make a choice which third-party tool to take for mobile testing. We can ask to provide some links, to provide some blogs. Please take into account that they will be a little bit outdated because the history is just before 2021, but it will be in here and we can work with it. Okay, what's next? Let's assume we start to create test cases and automation scripts if they applicable. How can we use chat for that? Okay, let's assume I have still a story and I need to prepare test cases. Please prepare test cases for the user story. That's my user story, and only one acceptance criteria is present. Better to separate them because if you're providing too many acceptance criteria in a row, ChatGPT can produce some very high level and absolutely useless ideas. You can additionally specify that I'm interested in positive test cases, negative test cases, integration test cases, whatever. So I haven't specified anything, and the solution is test case 1 title, description, steps, expected result. May work for analyzing, but if you are using some TMS system that has API or has ability to upload CSV files, that will not be very convenient. That's why I'm asking to rewrite these cases in a tabular form. Again, specifying the format: test case ID, test summary, priority, step, and expected results. Here we go. Here we do have it. And basically, this format might be used in order to create a CSV file, Excel file, and upload them to the Jira. If you're using QA space plugin, EPAM QA space plugin, it has the same structure, and basically you can upload all of them into TMS in an easy peasy way. If you need to change something, for example, I probably not using QI space. I'm using Zephyr. For Zephyr, each step must be in a separate row because without it, Zephyr will not understand what you're going to do. I'm asking to redraw. I'm asking to redone the cases. Now, I hope so. Each step, if my test cases consist for more than one step, will be in a separate row. And yep, test case 4, as you see, first step, second step. You can ask also to provide expected result per step because it's required for for Zephyr plugin in Jira. Is it possible to write in some other way? Yep. If your TMS system supports API, you can ask to rewrite in JSON format, and using Postman or any other system, just feed all those test cases to your system. As you see, summary, priority, step, expected results, they are here in JSON format. You can prepare your test cases with ChatGPT. You can make them just flawless with using Word, Excel, or just a notepad. And after that, ask ChatGPT to convert to JSON and copy them, insert them via Postman into the system. If you prefer to use Gherkin format because you have automation and automation prefer to have Gherkin, okay, let's do that. I'm specifying that I'm interested in Gherkin. Okay, feature, scenario, given then, given then. Actually, you have to consider this when and then with your automation team in order to have proper annotation. But more context you are feeding to chat, more useful results you will have. Okay, that's cool. Is it possible to prepare some test data? Let's assume I need to create a schedule. For that, I need to prepare and insert some test data already to check if I really have appointment. Yep, we can do that. Um, let's assume I need some test data that some grooming services were already taken by someone. Okay, here we go. We have some ideas. We can paste them to the application, or if it's not applicable, we can rewrite them in JSON. And using Swagger, Postman, SOAP UI, whatever, insert them into test environment and work with them. Okay, you're so tired. We have so many questions to you. It can't do that, really, guys. Yeah, he's too tight, but he's still doing it. He's still helping us. And the same structure, date, start time, end time, grooming time, I hope so, will be in here in JSON format. If I need to rewrite in SQL format and to insert them into the database, thank you so much. Okay, I'm asking please in scale format, let's assume for Postgre. And additional, I'm saying create me grooming master tables, because in here I have grooming type as a string and master as a string. But most probably there should be some vocabulary. Okay, groomings are in here, masters are in here, so it doesn't understand properly. We have to work with it to convince ChatGPT to create a table for create a separate table for grooming types and yep. Those I know certainly. Okay, we have a grooming types in here, and please combine the table grooming types and grooming. Grooming, how it was called? Groomings. Will do or will not do? No. No. Regenerate. Yeah, at least understand. I need grooming type as a separate table and groomings with reference to grooming type. So as you see, sometimes ChatGPT doesn't understand from the first step, but you can push, re-ask, provide more context, and everything will be good. And last but not least, let's assume we have some information about bugs, and we need to prepare some short test data about it. Test some kind of test summary, test summary, test result report. And do I have it? I'm sure I do have. Yeah, I do have it. So let's assume it was taken from Jira, list of bugs, and I need some test summary. Can I ask Chat? Yes. Chat will repeat the same, but I hope it will also please include test metrics and recommendation using bug report. I do believe in you. Yes, it's trying. It's still present in me the whole table, and I need statistic at first. No, it's too tight. Did not include bug report. Please suggest only statistic for summary. Yeah, now it's working. Total bucks 17. That's correct number. It was 17 bucks in it, and we have some small but breakdown by number, by severity distribution, by state distribution, some overall recommendation. Again, it might help you to create a summary and to take some routine work on ChatGPT. That's all from my side. Thank you so much. And now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Yes, thank you very much, Natalia, for your such an interesting presentation. I guess after such an examples, most of the people would like to try
Hope
ChatGPT
so.
in their work. Yeah. And yeah, actually, we have several questions. And one of them is actually, I guess you can help with it. So the following question: what do you think is stored from the input text in a language model? I have concerns using project-related text input in LLMS such as ChatGPT, as it may contain some IP of a client.
That's absolutely correct question. But we have our internal ChatGPT, and it's allowed to use it for customer. If you are using OpenAI worldwide ChatGPT or OpenAI, you have to consider that security aspect is very, very sensitive. It's we don't know what is sharing and what is reusing. You have to consider it with your client, but we can use internal ChatGPT because it's doing some kind of hiding sensitive information and working with some kind of obfuscating data.
Yeah, I would just say, to second that, I think in general, a lot of the privacy and legal issues are out there. But as Nataliya mentioned, like EPAM has a EPAM AI chat for EPAMers on the call. Want to just look for that. And the goal there is like using the Azure AI service behind the scenes, as well as encoding a lot of the information so that nothing is leaked to third parties. So it's completely safe to use. But be careful if you're just using general chat GPT to not send any sensitive information there.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we have one more question, and I guess, Tariq, this question is to you. So the question is the following. Uh, other, can you name some other tools except of ChatGPT that can be used to try it right now? So like this. Like we have these beautiful pictures, like AI can define what to click to get the result, but are there already some solutions or tools that can do this and we can try it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like there are some open source and available tools for kind of learning different aspects of AI. There are less tools that are already specifically tailored for testing specifically. Um, but I always point people to a couple free things that are out there to try. Um, the first one is that if you look at Google's Cloud Vision API. So if you go to cloud.google.com/vision, um, there's an API there that you can try where you can actually just drag and drop or upload images. Again, don't put anything confidential there. But that you can use that, for example, to check out some of the object detection capabilities that are available in that API and kind of get an idea for how that works. For folks who are generally trying to get a little bit more hands-on and start building their own machine learning models, there's g.co/teachable machine. So the Teachable Machine project is a nice, user-friendly, easy to use neural network. I'll see if we can paste these in the chat or provide them later. But the Teachable Machine is really good for just allowing you to either train on images or on audio to get an understanding of how classification works. And then if you're really trying to get deep, I would say get into looking at some of the Jupyter notebooks or Google Colab notebooks that are out there that help to teach you, like TensorFlow or PyCharm, or any of these Python libraries that are available. You can also kind of dig into those. There's lots of free stuff out there if you want to get hands-on. One of my favorite sites is called machinelearningmastery.com, and it kind of walks you through from a development standpoint how to use these things.
Great. Yeah, thank you for sharing this information. I guess it's really, really useful. Okay, I do not see any other questions in the chat, guys. Please, that's the last call for you if you still want to ask our colleagues something. Before we finish our event, just a kind reminder, feel free to leave your feedback. I've shared the link in the chat. So feel free to leave the feedback and we can improve our events. Also, do not forget that you can rate this event on the community page and give badges for our speakers. And the last reminder that next week on Wednesday, June 14th, we are going to have the second part of this event. So please join us and continue learning this interesting and trending topic regarding AI and testing. So I do not see any other questions in our chat. So I guess that's it for today. Thanks again, colleagues, for sharing your experience, for sharing your knowledge. And thank you, people who joined us. So we are waiting for you next week in the part two.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.